And Claire Broad is here. Hello, Claire. Welcome, by the way. I was about to go into a
Hi.
rant about the problems we were just having. Every time Claire comes on, I don't know whether the ghosts and stuff try and stop us from talking, but we always have issues. That was quite short for our normal issues. Wasn't it? That was
It
only
was.
like 10 minutes. But we've got it working now. Last time we had a nightmare for about half an hour,
Oh
wasn't it, at
God, I
Halloween?
know. Yeah, it was. It was
That
exactly like Halloween, wasn't it? The gremlins were in.
Yeah, they were. I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. So quickly then, just for those people that may not have ever listened to the shows that you've been on about. This is about the fourth time you've been on, isn't it?
I
Which
know.
is
I'm so
yeah,
honoured.
which is why I've got you on, because like you've been quite a big part of this podcast over the last couple of years.
Oh,
So I thought fifth anniversary, get Claire on. She's everybody's favourite. Can you just introduce yourself? What exactly is it you do to anybody that's not heard you on here before?
yeah, sure. So I call myself a soul medium now, but from the age of 4, I could see the spirit world and was communicating to them. As a teenager, I became aware of spirit around me all the time. And then I started to develop from the age of 20. So I'm now fully qualified as a medium in evidence of survival. Plus, I can now do other forms of mediumship as well, which is why I call myself a soul medium. I'm um, I'm registered with the Institute of Spiritualist Mediums. I'm accredited, and I'm an author and a spiritual teacher. So yeah, that's probably it.
When you say like a cred, is that like the equivalent, if there was such a thing as like a PhD in being a medium?
Yeah, it's not quite a PhD. It's
No,
probably it's
is that
it's
like
more
the
like
highest qualification you can get? Is what I'm trying to say. Like,
you can get a diploma if you went to the
can you?
Arthur Findlay. Yeah, yeah. Arthur Findlay College in Essex, in Stansted, they're the world-known kind of college for
Yeah.
mediumship.
Wow.
You can get a diploma there, but I went through the Institute of Spiritualist Mediums, which is an educational body rather than a religious body, because the Spiritualist National Union in the UK that own Arthur Findlay College, they are the recognised religion in the UK for spiritualism. So I didn't go down the religious route, I went down the educational route.
I didn't know such things existed as that. Like
They
that's
absolutely do. And
so
that's the
anybody
trouble. The
that's been through that is legit then.
Yes. Anybody that's either been through the Spiritualist National Union and got a diploma in demonstrating or mediumship qualifications, they can get a certificate, CSNU certificate in from the Spiritualist National Union. And then myself, got accredited through the Institute of Spiritualist Mediums. So I had to prove through hours of doing readings and demonstrating mediumship and other people watching me, feeding back, criticizing, critiquing, whatever you want to say, and then telling me where I could get better. And I had to do that in stages, in public speaking, and in proving evidence of survival. So I haven't just set up shop and said, oh, I can do mediumship.
Yeah.
Other people have watched me, and the public have also graded me, fed back, fed into the institute, so that in essence, it's a way of ensuring that I'm working to a high and strict code of conduct.
Yeah. So who
Yeah.
was that woman that I can't remember her name there, but there was some medium got a really shit name for being fake. Do you know who I'm talking about? She was quite famous. Oh,
I don't. I mean,
Psychic Sally or something, is it? Is that
oh
what?
yeah, so that's Sally Morgan. Well, the trouble you've got with mediums is that obviously when they get well known, you get the militant atheists trying to take them down. So I saw in the newspaper that uh, they had basically printed, I think, that Sally had cheated,
Yeah.
that she'd got information given to her because they'd been out in the crowds before the evening, but then the theatre that she was at absolutely debunked that claim, protected her, and then the paper had to take that back. So I'm not quite sure whether that she was found fake, to be honest,
Oh,
but just to make sure for the purposes of truth, I'd say everybody look into it. But I don't think she's fake. But whether you like her delivery or if you like her as a medium is up to everybody to
but
decide. Just
she's
the
like
same as
she's accredited as well and stuff. So
no, she's not accredited.
oh
So see, here's the thing: mediumship, much like many trades in this country, isn't uh, registered or regulated, by the government. So even though the Spiritualist National Union is recognised by the government as an official religion, the actual trade of mediumship isn't regulated.
Right.
So anybody can set up as a psychic or a medium, just like anybody could be a tattooist
Yeah.
or anybody can open a nail bar.
Yeah.
But the ones who obviously are trying to make the field credible and obviously are authentic and genuine have no problem being accredited. So, but not everybody goes down that road, and not every medium who isn't accredited is a fake.
Right.
But I chose to get accredited because it isn't regulated, and I wanted outside, adjudicators to basically watch my work, critique it, speak to the public who work with me. I chose to adhere to a strict code of conduct. I understand what the idea of giving evidence of survival is, and that mediumship is very different to psychic ability. And I know as a medium what it is I'm trying to achieve for people. So psychics, anybody can pick up a tarot card pack. We're all psychic. We're all intuitive. So we could all be giving information to somebody about themselves or future predicting. But the difference between mediumship and that is that you need to be able to describe a third party communicator that's deceased, that can be researched or validated, and then you need to be able to bring information through that neither the sitter or you know. So where is that information coming from as evidence for survival? Because no one can prove an afterlife scientifically, so we're trying to give people an experience.
Did you ever see, like, one thing that did puzzle me? This conversation is going to just go all over the place, by the way. So
That's
I wasn't
fine.
really even planning on starting like this. That just popped into my head when you started describing what you do. Did you ever see the thing like with Derren Brown when he does he tries to expose mediumship and stuff in his show? So how does he do that? Is that staged?
What Derren Brown is doing is obviously illusions.
Yeah.
And he's saying this is what mediums did. So he's saying that, like, in the Victorian period, because I saw him actually, I went and saw his stage show.
Yeah, I've been a couple of times. It's entertaining, but that bit did confuse me because the whole way through it, he's saying to people, "I'm definitely not speaking to the dead. Don't be fooled."
Right, that's right, and he's not.
No.
So he's doing illusions, obviously, like what used to happen in the Victorian period, where there were people that could genuinely do it, and then people that were obviously using cheesecloth and God knows what else.
Yeah.
And then he can use things like NLP and frame his sentences in a certain way that make him look like he's doing, and he'll have plants in the audience.
Yeah.
So the difference being when medium, because obviously I've worked with scientists, the difference with mediums is there will be, if they're scientifically studied, like the studies that Dr. Julie Beischel did at the Windbridge Centre, they would have protocol in place where the medium is not in touch with the public at all.
Right.
So with Julie Beischel, there was the medium, there was a lab operator or member of staff. That member of staff spoke to another member of staff and passed on what the medium was getting. So the medium never spoke at all. This is a double blind test.
Yeah.
To the actual sitter. The sitter then marked what was being said as a hit or a miss, not even a maybe. And Dr. Julie Beischel said she could prove beyond any doubt at all, scientifically, that the medium was not fraudulent. So as much as she could prove the afterlife, she could prove the medium hadn't been fraudulent.
Right.
So
okay. That was the one thing that's always kind of put seeds of doubt in my mind when he did that. And I'm just like, because of the way, I can't remember if he selected the participants in this way, but a lot of the things he does, he just throws frisbees out and shit and people catch him. And it's like, you come up with it. You can't fake that. if there's a plant that anyone could catch that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very clever. I find it fascinating.
Oh, it is really clever. I mean, he's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
But he's sought out mediums. And also the other thing is that the type of information I'm talking about is what's known as mental mediumship, is the information that neither the sitter knows or the medium could know. And so you're getting information that isn't throwing frisbees out or physical stuff or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Although I have seen lots of physical phenomena.
Yes, which I love. And speaking of phenomena, and this is another thing that I was intending on starting with. We did the Halloween show with you, which was 6 months ago now. Can you believe that?
No, I
it was
can't.
like a couple of weeks ago, right?
It does.
But that night, like, you know me, by now, like, I'm an open-minded skeptic, right? Is how I would always describe myself, which I think is, if you don't fully understand something, you've got to be open-minded. It's the best. It's not interesting, is it? Like, I don't know. I'm not arrogant enough to dismiss anything other than flat Earth. That's bollocks, right? but the last time you was on, and this was very fucking weird. Before you came on, all of my lights in my kitchen were flickering. They didn't before, they haven't since. I haven't changed any bulbs, right? When I came on here with you, your lights started flickering.
I did. I remember that.
And other weird shit was going on here. And this here, the screen started going sideways. There's like a LED machine. It's like a phone screen on it, I suppose. It's a touch screen. And that's never happened before nor since. Now, that really freaked me out. And
did it?
Yeah.
I love that. To me, that's like, yeah, come on, that's what we're asking for, isn't it? Some insight.
Yeah, it is, but this cost me 600 quid. So go flicker the light that cost me a fiver. I don't want to fuck around with any of this shit, right? That's what's annoying me about it. They've got no trouble, these ghosts. They don't know what anything costs. That's the problem with them. And they start smashing glasses up and plates and stuff. But yeah, we got a load of questions to ask you today anyway. But before I do, I'm going to ask you something that I want to know, what you think about this. I've noticed, which is randomly, I wasn't like stalking you or anything, but I've just come back from Iceland, right? I was in Iceland in February, well, a couple of weeks ago. And they've got lots of weird beliefs in Iceland, and I didn't know about this stuff. But I've noticed that you follow that guy, the bear dad, right? Yeah. I've seen you comment, and he is so funny. But when I was in Iceland, I started obviously getting fed. I'd never heard of this guy until I was in Iceland. I started getting fed all this Icelandic stuff because I was looking up on my phone. Obviously, TikTok's in everybody's phone, and trying to feed you stuff, and it's looking at shit it shouldn't be looking at and stuff. And he's really funny. He's in London, I think, at the moment and stuff.
He is
stuff like that. But anyway, when I was in Iceland, I was being told these stories by all of the reps and stuff while I was there, that nearly 50% of Icelandic people believe in trolls, right? Act like they're real, right? Which I found amusing. But then I thought, more paranormal than that. We went out to something called the Great Circle Tour or something, or the Grand Circle Tour, where you go out. It's a whole day tour, but they take you to all different places. But anyway, when we was on the road, we was approaching this. Basically, you don't see a car for hours, and it was wonderful. No other humans. My kind of holiday, other than the wind. But we're going along this road, and he said, coming up here, there's a rock. And rather than, like, when they built this road, they just blew up things to get it out of the way. But they've left this rock, and the road goes around this rock, and then continues going straight because they couldn't. And what happened was they tried to. This is the story he told. I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to ask you if you think it's credible in any way or just bullshit, right? But he has said that they couldn't. They brought all the machinery in to explode this rock to get it out of the way, and all the machinery broke. Mm-hmm. So they tried again, and all of that machinery broke. So then they brought somebody in because they're very spiritual and stuff. It's just the norm. So it wasn't like in this country, if you brought someone in to say, well, I can't, and someone said, because of this, everyone would go, well, fuck off. But over there, it's accepted that it's a reasonable thing that might happen. and they said the trolls live there and they're breaking the machinery. And then they moved it off to another site and it all worked. Whether this is just a story or not, I don't know. But they definitely built the road around the rock. I don't know what other reason they would. It didn't happen anywhere else. So regardless of trolls, could something make that happen?
Yes. Several things.
Yeah, go on.
So first of all, when we're talking about trolls or any elementals like the Fae, because obviously in Cornwall they believe in the Fae.
What's that?
Fairies.
All right. Okay. They believe in them in Iceland as well.
Yeah, but we had, in our pagan times, obviously, the Fae, fairies and all of that were very much part of our culture, same as Ireland and the leprechauns. This runs through our pagan history, plus the gods and the goddesses and what's known as elementals. So whether it be a little troll or whether it be a fairy, or because the fairies aren't actually that nice.
Right. They're not Tinkerbell. Are you trying to tell me?
No, they're definitely not Tinkerbell. Right. The elemental plane of reality exists. It's very real. I've seen it.
What do you mean? You've seen a troll?
No, I've not seen a troll.
But you think they're real?
No, I haven't. I don't know. I've never seen one.
But you wouldn't laugh at the prospect if you was in Iceland and you would take that seriously.
I wouldn't take it. I would take it with an open mind.
Because I thought originally this is fucking ridiculous. What are you talking about? And then they told me how many believe in them, and I thought, what do I know?
Well, because what I believe they're seeing, the astral planes that are closest to our earthly planes, have all sorts of beings or mythical creatures in them. Right. It's because I heard it explained to me once before, like someone must have seen a dragon for anybody to even come up with the idea of a dragon, because there's nothing new goes into the brain. The brain doesn't come up with new ideas. It builds upon ideas, but it has to have an experience or something be put in it for it to hold.
Might they have just like jazzed up a dinosaur?
Well, they might have done. But we've never seen a breathing fly. They might have done.
Yeah, but we've always had, like, with the fossils and stuff. Like, did that, like, flat earthers, for instance, believe the dinosaur fossils are dragon fossils?
I know where you're going with this, but if you think about when dragons came about, the myths is ancient.
Yeah.
Right, but if you think about our ancient civilization is probably about 15,000 years old that we know of, and dinosaurs is 250 million years ago.
Yeah.
When did the knowledge of dragon come in? Because they weren't seeing dinosaurs.
But when's St. George supposed to have beat a dragon? Has that got any
kind of...
Has that got any kind of date on it, though?
Well, I don't know when St. George and the Dragon is. I should do, being English, but I would imagine it's medieval. No, it's got to be around the time of Arthur and the Knights.
But being English, we're more aware of St. Patrick's Day than we are of St. George's Day, as usual. Well, everyone pretends to be Irish. Yeah, I know.
The thing is that Arthur and the Knights and Avalon and all of that, Merlin, that is our history. The Druids, Druidism, it's same as the Icelandics. We have if you want, Nordic ideas. Same as, so I could tell you some really strange things, and people will think that I am nuts, and I don't care anymore because I've got to that age where I don't care.
Tell me something strange.
I was invited to Stonehenge.
Right. Yeah.
And I went to a private circle in the evening. It was just a group of spiritual people going to do a meditation. That's all we were doing, with the intention of setting or sending healing energy, thoughts, positive thoughts to the earth for peace. That's what we went for. Okay, because we know by the global consciousness project and things like that, scientifically, that when we all hold collective ideas, that actually affects matter physically. Okay, so if enough people get together and hold an idea or an intention, that will start to materialize. It cannot not. This is quantum physics and all that as well.
Right.
So basically, I went to Stonehenge to sit in Stonehenge because it's a pagan site
Yeah.
to honor the ancestors and send healing. Okay. I was like, what am I doing here? I feel like I'm a little bit of a tree hugger, but I'd been invited. Let's go. I'm open minded. What I didn't expect to happen was what happened to me there. So as soon as I got close to Stonehenge, because we were the only people in the circle of Stonehenge, as soon as I got close to Stonehenge, I could feel energy going through my body, which was very odd. Then when I sat down to meditate, now I went with my mum, who's not at all psychically inclined. There was obviously about 20 of us there. As soon as we sat down to do a meditation, I felt weirdly, I felt like I was levitating. My mum said the same. There was something weird about the energy in the circle. And then all of a sudden, I saw swooping down, because I'd shut my eyes to meditate. I saw swooping down, clear as anything, as if I had my eyes open, a huge dragon. Now, the reason why I didn't just think this was my imagination was two things happened exactly the same time. One, the crows that had been sitting on the top of the stones at exactly the same time all went, ah, ah, took off, went mental. They'd been really, really quiet,
Yeah.
sunny day. And my mum, who's not psychic at all, said, oh my God, I've just seen a big reptilian eye. So I knew I just seen that. Now that left me with a bit of a conundrum. It's like, I just seen a dragon.
What do you mean though? You physically see it?
I saw it with my mind's eye,
Right, got you.
but it was as clear as
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
was looking at it.
That's
As in through my
interesting,
mind's eye.
actually. That's interesting because I've got a question here that's sort of a bit like that I laughed at, and now I'm thinking, okay,
Okay,
you're
and
not
then
going to laugh at it.
no, and then something else happened. So I think out of the mouth of babes. So I do spirit release work and clearance and energy work with Giles Whitnell, who's an energy healer. And we were called out to a house where a young child was seeing a little goblin gremlin thing.
Right.
And she was calling it funny hippo or something like that. Okay. But it was terrifying her, terrifying her. And I turned up there. I saw the spirit world basically telling me that because the trees had been cut down in the area, this elemental had been displaced. It had no home and it had made residence in the house that she was in, and she could see it because children between the age of 0 and 6 are in theta brainwave patterns. So they're seeing what we don't see.
Right.
That's why mediums see it, because mediums move into theta brainwave patterns. So it's a different frequency of the brain that taps you into these other dimensions. Now, are they real? Who knows? Is it thought form? Is it the collective consciousness as we all focus on these things? Or does that take in magician terms or magic terms, real magician, not Derren Brown and, dynamo magicianry. In magical terms, thought forms are a real thing. They take a life of their own. We are consciousness. There are many planes or dimensions to the spirit world. And therefore, these things could be existing at another level of reality. So when we say there's trolls or dragons or fairies, no, there's not in our earthly world. No. But do we see them? Are they existing in a spiritual plane or another level of reality different to ours? Absolutely. Too many people have seen them. So that's why the Finnish believe in the trolls. Now, answering your question about the stone, it could be on a ley line.
Mm.
So it could be interfering with the machinery. And they've attributed the trolls to it. It could be if consciousness is primary and it affects matter, and when enough of us come together and hold an idea, it could be just the sheer fact they believe in trolls and they hold it as actual means it manifests.
Yeah.
So I try to keep an open viewpoint. I didn't see a dragon, obviously, physically, but I did see one in a meditation, and I couldn't tell the difference between whether it was real or not. And at the same time, sitting in Stonehenge, I also felt touched by the dead. I mean, I felt death. I felt death touching me. I felt the ancestors coming in. I'm very obviously attuned with the deceased, but that is the first time I've ever sat anywhere and actually felt deceased people touching me, the coldness. That place is a portal. So there are many layers to reality. And if I was to just take it at face value as in what I see, I believe, then no, they're not existing in this material world. But we don't see half of reality. We don't see hardly any of it because the human eye can only see 0.035%.
Yeah.
So if all these people say they've seen trolls, they've seen fairies, they've seen unicorns, they've seen whatever, it could be collective consciousness. It could be. But does that mean that it doesn't exist? No. When you go to sleep, you dream. A dream's real.
Yeah, I wonder if that what you was talking about there with the person that was seeing this troll or this gremlin or whatever you was describing. What was that when they was just because that was like people say about sleep paralysis. They see things like that.
No,
It wasn't
she
that.
was
No.
she was about 3 years old. She could talk well enough. She was terrified, awake and seeing it. And the trouble, that's going to sound really crazy, but for anybody spiritually open-minded here, the trouble with the elemental realms, because they belong to the earth. So the shamans obviously believe that there are 3 layers. There's the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. And in the middle world, it's the earthly plane. So it is all of this, the astral planes. The trouble with the middle world like that is with a spirit loved one, I can cross them over into the light. But with elemental that deserves to live in the surroundings, this is its home. I've got nowhere to put it. So we had to try and literally plant a plant and get this thing to move out. Now, she was so young, she wouldn't have been able to know all of this. She didn't hear what was going on. She wasn't being told what was happening. We were just in there to try and help her, obviously, but she wasn't privy to all the conversations. But it got cleared. Right. It went away. So is it psychological? Well, most of the things are psychological. Consciousness creates reality.
So could you, like, if there was a like a hauntings or something in a house, could you go in and say piss off, and the ghost would not like that, but obviously be good if it was that easy. I'd go and do it. But you know, like, could you clear a house?
Yes, that's what Giles and I do.
You should go to Iceland because there's another story they told. Right, there's this house in the middle of nowhere, and it's a lovely big house, and it's idyllic. And another thing I've got to say about Iceland is you get 5G everywhere, and I didn't see one 5G tower anywhere. So I don't know how they do it. I did not have no internet. I had internet wherever I went, no matter how remote it was, completely perfect. I don't get that around here, and it's built up, and I see 5G towers there, so I do not know how they do that. But anyway, there's this house, and he pointed it out, and it's famous on Iceland for being a haunted house. And everybody accepts that this house is a haunted house, and it keeps going up for sale because people think that because it's so well priced because it's a haunted house and nobody wants it. People just think, I don't believe in ghosts, or if it's just a bit of activity, I can live with that for that price, and then they put it back on the market, and it's forever for sale, this house, and it's like pretty ridiculously cheap. And I'm just wondering why. If you can clear, if this is a thing and someone can go and clear that, why don't they and just buy the house?
Well, because there's no guarantees, because there could be a whole load of things we really will go deep and wonderful now, because so I went to a haunted, I think I might have told this story, but I went to a haunted pub once where, did I tell you there was knives coming off from the back of the bar?
Yeah, you told us at Halloween, yeah.
What happened at that pub was nothing compared to what was going on in the land around the pub.
Right.
And so for hundreds of years, the land had been used as a ritualistic sacrificial piece of land in pagan times. And the energy was intense. I am not powerful enough to clear that.
Right.
So I can speak to a deceased loved one who may be hanging around because they were attached to the home and doesn't want to move on. I can work with what would be typically classed as demonology, but lower frequency spiritual entities that have been collecting in the place.
Yeah.
I can work with all of that. But there may come a time when something is just too big for me, even. So there's no guarantees. I've also been working on several, obviously would never discuss cases, but I've been working on several incubus and succubus cases. And they're absolutely fascinating. Do you know what they are?
No, I don't know what that is.
So incubus and succubus is where a masculine or a male will get raped by
Right.
the
Okay.
spirit world, and a succubus, a female's being raped.
Jeez.
So if you ever saw in the 70s, or was it the 80s, the Entity, that film, The Entity,
Yeah.
that is a real case. That
Right.
really happened. The parapsychologists were called in because this lady was being spiritually raped. And in the end, they couldn't call it. They didn't know if she was creating the phenomena herself, because she managed to get herself into a love triangle with the parapsychologists. But it's a well documented case. This exists.
Mm.
And it's very, very distressing for the people that experience it. And so I've been working in cases like that to help people get their power back, reclaim their energy, so that nothing can come close to them. Ultimately, we are sovereign, we are soul, we are energy, we are consciousness, we cannot be destroyed. When you hold that truth and you get into your heart, which is a huge electromagnetic machine, nothing can really get near you. But most people aren't living in their power. They're just not. And they're traumatized, and they're carrying a whole load of baggage. So this is where it's always a crossover between psychology as well. So what I do when I'm working with my guides is they tell me about the trauma that's been in a person's life, and they work to help that person release that trauma. Because lower entity energies, beings, will be attracted to that because they feed off it.
Well,
Like attracts like.
I've not got any flickering lights yet, so I'm feeling pretty calm at the minute.
You're good. You're
So
good.
what's that word when a bloke gets raped by a ghost? What
An
did you just?
incubus.
Yeah, don't do that to me.
Incubus.
I ain't
No,
scared.
don't even
Ghosts.
hold that as a possibility.
No, all right, that's not possible. Fuck off.
No,
All right.
it's not.
Right, I got. I don't know what he's saying here. So someone that's messaged me saying he was trying to call in, but I think he sent his story to me instead. So
Cool.
let's see what you think about this. So it says, my ghost story was in 2019. My sister died from breast cancer at 34. 6 days later, my dad killed himself. Jesus,
Oh
Neil.
God.
My dad killed himself with an overdose. During this time, me and the missus were talking about going through IVF, and only me and the missus knew about this conversation. Only me and Lucy at the time knew about this anyway. We went through with it, and it was a success, and we had Lottie. One night when Lottie was about 6 weeks old, I bolted up in bed for no reason, and when I looked up, I saw my dad standing at the back wall. He always wore a grey zip-up hoodie and a cap, and he was there in front of me as clear as day. He looked at me, smiled, and walked over to the Moses basket, bent down and looked at Lottie, and smiled a huge smile, and then walked backwards looking at her. I said to him, "Oi, I want a word with you." And he looked at me and smiled and disappeared through the wall. Lucy woke up as she heard me and I told her, and she just hugged me. He was real and there as if I could touch him.
Yeah.
That's what he says. That was his story.
So
He was
you
trying to
see,
come on and tell that. Sorry, Neil, we was having some
oh,
audio problems when you was trying to call in, but we're sorted
yeah.
out now.
Sorry, Neil, and that's a lot of trauma. I hope he's okay. This is what I'm trying to say to you. There's no way that Neil will have it that didn't happen. He knows, he's seen it. So there's
Yeah,
no difference between him seeing his dad spiritually and somebody saying they've seen a troll or
yeah,
a dragon or because there are other dimensions of reality, same as there are, if you want to call UAPs, UFOs, they're interdimensional. We've really got to open our mind up to what reality is.
yeah.
And I've had to go right down the scientific route to meet as many scientists as I can to satisfy my own mind that
Yeah.
science doesn't know more, and it doesn't know
Yeah.
what consciousness is, and the
No.
scientists end up with me. They
Yeah.
end up coming to see me.
Yeah, they don't. They
So
don't. They admit they don't know what conscience is, do they?
right now,
Uh,
I've got an amazing scientist that I'm in contact with. He was the head of a department at Cambridge University. He's out in Europe working on some really cool projects now, scientifically.
yeah.
And he comes to me asking me what I think about things
Mm.
because he's telling me that science is in an absolute mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot science. They're always trying to disprove science. Science is always trying to disprove itself all the time, but a lot of egos get in the way, and everybody thinks they're the smartest person in the room. And the scientific people that I come in contact with over generally the flat Earth argument, for instance, is like I've
Yeah.
become a name in that argument. And there's some very, very scientific, qualified PhD people in that sphere, ironically, and and they all nitpick each other's stuff.
Well, they're meant to.
I
'Cause
know they're
are
supposed to, but
you're
there's no
meant to be.
consensus, and it's not
No.
designed to be a consensus. So
It's supposed to, it should be peer reviewed. And then anything else that is just an opinion, it's just subjective, right?
yeah,
So if somebody else says, oh, here's an experiment I've done, and somebody else comes along and goes, I've repeated that experiment and it didn't work, and there's my findings, then that's great science. But when they just start getting, like you say, with their egos involved, and I'm so intelligent and you're not, and I've got all
yeah,
these credits. I've met hugely intelligent people. I have been around many scientists, the open-minded, true scientific observers, and they're wonderful people. And it upsets me that science is getting a bad rap, but at the same time, it needs to, because if you're bringing scientism into it and not keeping an open mind, when let's face it, like Neil, how many people need to have these experiences and say, I'm having them, for people to actually go, do you know what? It's kind of going beyond science, isn't it now? I mean, that should be the science.
yeah. But
How many people?
it's one of them things, isn't it? Though that it's kind of, if it's on the news, even it's like at the end with a smirk. Like
Yeah.
it's that kind of thing that people have been almost like. This is my experience with myself and pretty much everybody, right? Most people, if they're completely honest, believe in things to some degree, right?
They do. Yeah, exactly. They do. They just don't know what, which is the
Yeah.
healthy place to be, right?
And they feel like they'll be mocked, so they dismiss it, but they tell the story anyway. But they make sure they let everyone know, well, I don't believe this, but you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
and that's
I'm not
what
crazy, but
yeah, and that's what they do. But they're brought,
Yeah.
but the person they're telling is rare, whatever, and is probably exactly the same as them. Like, and this is the weird thing about humans. Like, people don't like. To me, I do need to see things. I don't want to see them. As Lee always laughs at me, like I think maybe a Ouija board, does it really work? Would I do it? No. So therefore, I obviously think it works, right? That's just the fact. So otherwise, I'd do it, wouldn't I? So I can't mock it. I better get through some of these questions anyway, because I forgot how much we just talk. So this is from Vishal. So this is actually a comment from the last show that you was on, and people always, and I always say to people, I've only given people a day's notice to get questions in for you here, because if this has all been kind of put together this week, hasn't it? So you, next time you come on, I'll need to give about a month's notice, because people always come after, oh, if you'd have told me, I'd have got these questions. So this is one of those instances from the last one. So during lockdown, my father-in-law had to have an emergency heart bypass. Part of the surgery would involve then stopping the heart for about 30 minutes. Me and my wife were all at home waiting for the 6 hours to pass to hear from the surgeon. Very tense moments, and during the period, my 3-year-old daughter kept saying, "Hi, Nana, Nana's here." Nana is what Indians call their granddads, right? So anyways, my wife burst into tears thinking that her dad's died on the operating table. Anyway, a few weeks later after surgery, we could finally see him, asked him if he knew anything about when he was made unconscious, and he said he didn't. So no one suggested that he's died on the operating table or even had a near-death experience, but he's saying that his 3-year-old has suddenly come up with Granddad's in the room.
Yeah, I could see him. So likely what happened there was because Granddad was, for all intents and purposes, asleep, unconscious. His consciousness isn't being contained by the brain. The brain has been shut down. So he could travel like we do in our sleep, or astral travel, and she could see him. And like I said, children between the age of 0 to 6, roughly, their brains are only in delta brainwave patterns, which is really nothing, and theta. They only start to develop the ability to have alpha brainwaves, which is meditated when we're in meditation, or beta when we're thinking. They only develop those skills later in life. This is why for children they can have a broom and that really is a horse. And we're like, don't be stupid, it's a broom.
Yeah.
Okay. So for children, they can see that dimension of reality as clear as anything.
Right, next one. I'm going to move on. Yeah, I've got another 4 here. Right, so this is from Lisa A. I don't know why they bother. If you don't want to tell me your surname, don't just say A. Like, what difference does that make to me, to my life? And
Lisa.
So Lisa's from the mean street. So she's from here. She's from Essex, right? So it says,
Yeah.
can you ask Claire what this means? Question mark. Well, I will. Tell me what you want, Lisa. Right. So I was on a ghost walk at Tilbury. That's not far up the road here. Fault, I think, in brackets. And it was tunnels under the fault. I've never,
Okay.
I think I've heard of this, but I've never done it. It was dark and I felt my leg get grabbed like a child was hugging it, but there was nobody there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so that's absolutely typical of spirit activity.
Yeah.
Typical. We like I just said, I felt touched when I was in Stonehenge. I mean, they definitely can touch us.
You weren't on LSD at Stonehenge, was you? Is that was there any druids there and shit? Like, do they go there?
They do go there, but
The
this
solstice,
evening,
though. Is that all? The only time?
Actually, we were there on St George's Day. Weirdly,
Oh.
that was the other really weird thing.
What you saw the dragon that St George slayed?
No, I don't know. I wouldn't go that so far, but see, so there's a dragon ley line. I didn't know this. I found this out afterwards because I was like, "What did I just see? What have I seen?" But it was St George's Day, and apparently there is a dragon ley line going through the UK from sort of down Cornwall way up.
A dragon ley line? What's that?
So ley lines are obviously energy lines that cross through the earth.
So there's a church not far from here, Canewden Church, and everyone always says there's ley lines going through that church. That's why this church was so famous. When I was growing up, it's the most scary place in the world. We used to go up there every Halloween, and the police would turn up because so many people used to go there, and all of the residents were like, "Fucking hell, here comes all the idiots again. It's Halloween, trying to open the gates of hell."
Doorway.
Whatever people are doing. But I thought it was something to do with witches, because it's Canewden is a witch there's witches everywhere. So basically, you go in the pub and it said "witches welcome" or something on the door. Like, it's famous for witches, and
Okay.
but I've never heard of dragon ley lines. Like, what?
No, it's not a dragon ley line. It's a ley line, but it's called the dragon ley line.
Oh, okay. So it's not nothing to do with actual dragons.
Well, it probably was when
Right.
it got named. I have no idea. But if you think about Merlin and the history of Merlin, they're down in Cornwall, even though Merlin is Welsh.
Yeah.
All of Tintagel, all around there, these ley lines, there is truth in this somewhere going back. We've got disconnected from our past. We've got to get back to it.
Have you ever been to Tintagel, by the way?
Yeah, I love Tintagel.
Did you go up those million steps to the thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I was only young when I'd done that, and I was like, I could never do it now. But I'll probably.
No, I did do it, but it nearly killed me.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I always remember that staircase going up to that castle.
I don't know if we answered Lisa though, did we?
The kid hugging her leg. You said it was typical.
Oh yeah, it is typical. Sorry, I just want to make sure she gets answered.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are you saying? That was a ghost of a child or something like that?
Well, if she felt it was a child, I mean, her imagination would come into it a little bit because she'd be trying to understand what that touch was. But if
Yeah.
obviously it was low and
She said
gentle, I would imagine.
she's saying here it felt like a hugging the leg, like I'm assuming it's a kid there tight hugging on her leg.
Yeah. I mean, I sat in a physical seance once and I felt children touching my hands
Yeah.
and there was no kids in the room.
Yeah. You also got ectoplasm all over your face once, I've heard.
I did, yeah.
Another one you had. That was the best story ever. I'm never going to forget that one. So this is the next one. Clive and some numbers. What's that about? Clive. Do you know anyone called Clive?
No. If I do, I've just insulted him.
Clive, you've got a terrible name, Clive. That's the worst name I've ever heard. So spent the night at 30 East Drive. Do you know this place? This is the Black Monk of Pontefract, I remember.
Oh.
30. We've done a show on this, which is why that rings a bell. So you can spend the night at this place, obviously for some dollar, all right? And loads happened. Things being thrown around and the sound of laughter. And they're probably fucking laughing at your name, Clive. You probably introduced yourself on the way in. As well as footprints being heard all night. You don't hear footprints, Clive. What are you talking about? You mean footsteps, surely, right?
Oh, footprints. Yeah.
I heard some footprints, did you? They were just playing or were they just playing tricks on us for money? I don't know. What do you reckon? Do you know about this place or not? 30 East Drive.
I haven't been to 30 East Drive because I've been going to regular people's homes and getting as much entertainment that have been obviously haunted.
Did you hear any footprints, according to Clive? Apparently you can hear footprints now.
Yeah,
Next time I go out in the snow, it'd be really loud, wouldn't it? I'll be able to see all them all over the ground there, Clive.
Oh, footsteps. So, what, you've never... Oh, wait, spiritually, footsteps is...
Clive obviously means footsteps, didn't you, Clive? I'll help you out, Clive.
Yeah. But, maybe they left footprints in the snow. Or I have seen... It was an house.
There was a snow. I think Clive just fucked that up, didn't you, Clive? Like you're trying to get him out of this.
But if we give him the benefit of the doubt, I have seen footprints appear on the floor in houses.
Yeah, but I would give him the benefit of the doubt, but it says here, as well as footprints being heard all night.
Yeah. You're not going to let him off.
No getting out of this one, Clive. You mean steps, son.
Yeah, I mean, could somebody have done it? Well, yeah, but I doubt it. I doubt that very much. Why would you want to? You'd get rumbled eventually. I
spoke to someone else once on the TikTok when I was doing a live once, and they said they'd also spent a night at this place. And I remember him saying much the same as what Clive's said here. And he wasn't sure either. It's almost like there was so much going on that it became unbelievable.
But that is what happens, because the more you see and the more you hear, the more you think, actually, is this because your nervous system calms down for one, so the fear after that goes. You're like, is this actually real? That's normal. I mean, when I see physical stuff, I'm ending up in the end. You're checking everywhere, trying to debunk it yourself. But did it happen? Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't say whether somebody is actually doing it. But I would imagine by now in Pontefract, someone would have rumbled them. They could set cameras up and would have caught someone out. So
it's the Black Monk. It's always a monk as well.
Right.
So I don't know, but maybe he's just assuming you might have heard of that and you might have a story.
I have heard of it, but I've not been there.
Right,
no,
okay.
I haven't done a lot of haunted places because my work is all about healing. I haven't done a lot of ghost hunts,
Clive, I would suggest to you that you visit Claire, get trained on this stuff and go back and assess it for yourself. That's what I think, Clive.
True.
And change your name. Change your name to something normal. That's not Clive. If he listens to this show, he's got to have a sense of humour. Us pair of knobs talking about everything, me and Lee all the time. Right, so this is a funny one, but so speaking of Clive, all is almost forgiven here because this next one is for some reason Beverly, 26 years. I don't know why have you told me your age? I don't know, Beverly, right? Not where you're from or nothing, but it says here, did a Ouija board when I was a kid. This is what I was saying to you earlier on that I've read earlier, and I thought that's bollocks, but you've told me some stuff, and I think maybe not, right? So did a Ouija board when I was a kid, and I wasn't sure if the glass was moving or someone was moving it. But that night, we all dreamt of a green crystal skull, which was weird. Can you ask Claire if that is normal? Well, it's not normal, is it? Like, let's be honest. Like, so I can say no, but have you ever heard of that before? Have you ever heard of some people sharing experience and all then having the same dream or something?
Yes, yeah. So this is scientifically studied.
Right.
So, or the parapsychologists study this kind of thing, shared experience, because obviously it carries more weight.
Yeah.
So with regards to the Ouija, I mean, I've got a spirit board just here. I use it. It's a tool. But the connection is always between yourself and spirit. That's just a bit of wood or a bit of cardboard. So don't put too much power on I mean, it's no different from picking up a pen and a bit of paper, to be honest.
No, I was just looking around there because you talk about tools. I've actually got a ghost monitor. It's obviously
I've
bollocks.
got one of those.
What? You press the button and it, like, I've noticed it just picks up electricity from things, right? But I don't know
you're talking about an EMF reader?
Yeah, I think so. But I can't. It was here, but I've got no. There's so much
I'll get
crap
mine.
around
Hang on.
me.
Oh, yeah, no, I won't.
You'll curse it and bloody your mic won't work again when you come back. You don't want to take any risks. This is the best it's ever gone. Usually you're cutting out and coming back, and so it's going pretty well.
It's because Lee's not here, that's why.
That's what I mean, yeah. Lee's not. Oh, by the way, an update on Lee. Last time you was on there, you said something about someone smoking or something, and Lee, you said he could smoke and stuff, and you said the word Norman. That person wasn't called Norman, by the way. I don't know what they were called, but I did check with him a couple of weeks later. Because you got the name Norman, and then he said, yeah, he thinks it was, but apparently it wasn't. Right. I don't know who Norman was, but everything else you said resonated with Lee, but I don't know where.
Yeah, then he came back to me on that.
Did he?
Said what he thought. Yeah, and then he said came back to me and said what he thought the Norman was. I wish he was here because he gave me feedback.
He didn't tell me he'd come back to you on anything.
Oh, sorry.
Lee.
Favoritism.
Lee's going behind my back here with the guests. He didn't start flirting with you on the old DMs, did he? He didn't slide in, did he?
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. Right. I just got one more little question here. Oh yeah, but so the green skulls then. So what could that symbolize?
Yeah, basically, I think the thing is what happens is we can all connect. Again, it comes down to consciousness. So if you're using the board and you've all collectively connected, which is what you're doing when you're sitting around a board, ultimately, your minds have blended. So then when you're asleep, for whatever reason, it's possible that you're all seeing or experiencing a similar thing. So I wouldn't attribute that to the Ouija board, because why would a green skull want to communicate unless it was a spirit was trying to say something about a green skull? But you're never going to find out. There's no evidence in that, so you might as well dismiss it. But
maybe it was a skeleton just trying to celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
possibly. That's
in my mind, it's more likely that they've all collectively connected, and then when they've gone to sleep, they've had some kind of weird same dream.
Yeah, a skull drinking Guinness. They'll dreamt the same thing. I got one more here. This isn't really a question. This is more probably a complaint. Alan from Brisbane, Australia. I'm assuming. Why is Claire always booked up? That's what he wants to know. Right?
Oh.
Obviously,
sorry, Alan.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Alan.
No, I know. I have normally have about a 2-year waiting list, and so as soon as my appointments get released, last time when I released my appointments, they were gone in 10 minutes.
So next time Claire's on the show, just come on the show and get 5 minutes for nothing. For just turning up
although
on the
I
show.
Can't really do it justice on the show.
No, she can't do it justice
Sorry,
on the
Alan.
show. But take what you can get, Alan. I mean, the weirdest thing, right? I don't know how old Alan is, but me and Lee had a conversation on the podcast ages ago. And one of the funniest things that I cannot not laugh at is the idea of a baby called Alan. Do you know what I mean? Like, when my son was at school and he was little, one of the mums had a kid about 6, the same age as my son was at the time, and she had a baby Alan, Right, he was like literally a tiny baby, and I didn't know he was called Alan. And they was in a room. We was in a room, and like the baby was crawling around, and she turned around and said, "Oh, where's Alan?" And I thought she meant her husband. And I went, "Oh, he's over there." She went, "No, Alan," and pointed at the baby, and I thought the fucking baby's called Alan.
It's a bit like Baby Clive, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, no, Clive's a shit name at any age, Clive. At least Alan, when you get older, you can get away with that one. But like as a baby, like you would go through the pain of birth and then think, right, Alan, for this. Like, what's the point?
I reckon that Alan was named after someone in the family.
I think so, yeah. But I don't know, Alan could be 100 for all I know. He's not good. Unlike Beverly, he didn't give his age. I don't know why she did, 26 years. Cheers, Beverly, with your Irish skulls, and Alan complaining. Alan, you could have asked a question rather than complaining that you can't get any time with Claire. You could have got a question answered rather than just moaning about it. Obviously, you want to speak to Claire about something.
I know. I try and see as many people as I can, but there's only me.
Maybe Alan was like, why am I called Alan? Maybe that was his question. Maybe, is it really embarrassing when I was in nappies being called this? I don't know. Right, so that was all the questions I've got today. Me and Claire are probably going to have to go on Patreon now to do this next bit because we've gone an hour here on this one.
That way?
Yeah. So, me and Claire are going to do a little bit now on demonic possession, as it's called.
Ooh.
Right? So if you're on Patreon, switch over. You'll get this on there. I don't know how long this will go. I've got a little video that I want to show Claire and get her opinion on. And for Claire, thank you for coming on the main show. Thanks for helping us celebrate the 5th, which I cannot believe.
Happy birthday!
5th anniversary. I know it's my birthday this week as well. This is like a super busy week. So we got. I've still got to do some recordings with Lee, but I'll be putting this in the show somewhere. But thanks for coming back on. Very generous with your time. I know you're super, super busy. But we always appreciate you on this show, and everybody enjoys listening to it. So cheers, Claire. Thank you. If you want to hear more from Claire, jump over to Patreon. If you're not on Patreon, patreon.com/whatcast to sign up for that. And we're going to go over there right now. So cheers, Claire, and we'll see you in a minute.